Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. There are at least 155 hostages that have been freed after the Balochistan Liberation Army hijacked a train carrying over 400 passengers in Pakistan's restive Balochistan region. The rescued passengers have been taken to Mach, a nearby town where makeshift hospitals have been set up. The Jaffar Express was intercepted by the terrorist group in a tunnel in a remote area on its way from Quetta to Peshawar, a route that was made operational after a month-long suspension. 24 hours have now elapsed since the hijack took place. There are more developments coming in on this story. Let's take a look, where we are understanding that the Pakistani forces have launched a full-scale operation to rescue the train passengers taken hostage by the BLA terrorists on board the Jaffar Express. Over 24 hours have elapsed. As I mentioned before, there are already 155 of those 400 plus passengers that have been rescued. Meanwhile, the Baloch Liberation Army has taken 214 passengers hostage and they are threatening their execution. Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee, let's start from you. And what is it that these hijackers are demanding in exchange for releasing the 214 hostages?
The Balochistan has never been treated by the Pakistani, mainly Punjabi establishment as part of Pakistan. They have received discriminatory treatment. The kind of resources they've been allocated has always been far inferior to what is given to other provinces. They have a huge grievance. I wouldn't actually call them terrorists. They want to liberate Balochistan from what they believe is Pakistan Punjab's colonial rule. They want to be free. And if you would look at the history of pre-partition India, Balochistan was never supposed to be part of Pakistan. It was just an accident of history that it became part of Pakistan. They have a long list of demands, I'm told, but they have released some women and children, but mainly from their own region, and they have also killed some armed forces. So the question also arises as to how the Pakistani establishment was so loose in allowing this train without adequate surveillance and security to travel through such a restless province, when it is well known that the Pakistani army has been indulging in killing and assassinations of Balochis, and naturally the BLA has promised revenge.
Okay.
It is right now their list of demands is not known, but apparently they have said that if their demands are not met, they will execute the hostages one by one. So I'm sure that some negotiations must be going on behind the scenes as we talk, Megha.
We're also getting updates that this is the scene where the Balochistan Liberation Army terrorists took control of Jaffar Express. This video on your screen shows how the passengers, including women and children, were offloaded from the train and then allowed to return to the railway station. They were taken on a goods train to the railway station. They are at this point of time at the nearest hospital where their medical checkup is going on. I'm going to take up this question from Major General Rajan Kochar, and as Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee was saying, a claim being made by the Baloch army that the 214 people that are still apprehended, that are still under the control of the Balochis, of the Baloch army, are quote unquote Pakistani military personnel. There is no identification that has now been revealed in terms of who these 214 people are. And how do we make a differentiation on who is a terrorist and who is a militant and who's fighting for the sovereignty of a free land, of an independent land for their self-determination, keeping in mind particularly that an attack on a military establishment by the Balochis against the Pakistanis is one matter, but when you apprehend, hold hostage civilians, whether they are Balochis or whether they are Pakistani nationals, then you are committing an act of terror.
Megha, a very interesting question, because the definition of terrorism is absolutely clear. It says that any force which is targeting a legitimate government and the people of the state. Here in this case, we have an organization, Balochistan Liberation Army, a part of a number of splinter groups which are operating in Balochistan. Why this kind of insurgency, I would actually call it here, because there is insurgency in the state of Balochistan today, and it has been happening since the last 25 years. Unfortunately, the Pakistan establishment is not able to see the signs of unrest and speak to the people, talk about their grievances and come to certain kind of a settlement. When there is an apathy on the part of the government, there are a number of incidents of young people who are missing, who have been apprehended, who have been captured by the establishment, by the security forces without any legitimate reason or any law or a case against them. They just go missing because they are a part of this agitation against the government. For the last couple of days now, there has also been a sit-in protest in Balochistan in a number of places against such a kind of disappearances of the young men. When an establishment starts working like a terrorist, when a law enforcement agency does not work as per the rules of the land, you will find there will be retaliation, there will be resentment. What is happening in Gwadar today? What is happening in Quetta today? What is happening because of the CPEC? But the Chinese have entered Gwadar. They have actually fenced the areas. They are stopping the civil population from coming into their own areas. When you enforce these kind of restrictions on the local population, what do you expect? You expect them to remain quiet? You expect them to...
So are you saying that the lines between who can be called a terrorist versus who is going to be given the tag of a freedom fighter have blurred over here? Now, I understand that the military forces, the current Pakistani establishment, have been meting out atrocities, taking their land and businesses and handing them over to the Chinese authorities to set up bridges and factories and so on and so forth. But if you draw a comparison to what Hamas claims is an act of quote-unquote patriotism, a counter-attack, as they claim, against the Israelis who have illegitimately occupied their land and thrown out Palestinians. How do we then compare these two instances and how do we draw the comparisons? I'll take that question to my other panelists as well, but here's a soundbite from an individual by the name of Imran, whose cousin and a young child were passengers on the train. Although women and children have been freed by the Baloch army, this statement will help us understand what the family members went through during the period of the hostages that they had turned into and the explosion that took place right before that.
अपनी बहन को लेने सर कोयटा से लेके जा रहे थे मुल्तान के लिए, तो ये रास्ते में ये एक्सीडेंट हो गया सर। ये अभी पता नहीं है, वो मुझे खुद बता नहीं रहे कि ये क्या हाल है, किस तरह है, वो बोलते हैं हमारा कोई राब्ता नहीं सर।
Jyoti, I'm going to come to you now. How do we understand this? Are you saying that if law is not taken into the hands of the Baloch army, there is no way that they can seek justice, they can seek independence and sovereignty from the Pakistanis' clutches. Do they even have alternatives?
Well, obviously, you see, when you are talking about the Hamas, I think that's stretching things a bit too far, because when you look at what the Hamas did, you know, the kind of atrocities, deliberate, I would say evil, frankly what they did was evil. The atrocities they perpetrated on the population, on the civilian population, the kind of, you know, from murder to rape, the torture, it was unimaginable. What they did was unimaginable. There is no comparison with what is happening in this particular Jaffar Express case, because you see there are no, I mean, this is, if you are going to call it an act of terrorism, well I am not so certain about it. You know, they have taken this train, they have hijacked this train, they have taken the people hostage, but they are not going around killing innocent people. It's only whatever, and always remember one thing, whatever you are hearing now is a version of the Pakistani version. And what is the Pakistani official version? They are saying, I saw some newspaper site in India, they have picked up the story that these Baloch fighters are using innocent people, as innocent civilians as shields, you know, and there's like suicide bombers, they are talking about innocent civilians as shields. Well, and then, you know, when you go back and check the source of that news, which I did, by the way, and it was actually coming from a report by Pakistan Radio, and it was the army's version. So, you see, I am not, and when it comes to Pakistan army's version and all, I am not ready to believe even an iota of what they are saying.
Fair enough. There are claims and counter claims that are being made. But can a case in point be made over here about the Kandahar hijack? There were no targeted killings that took place on the plane over the on the passengers who were aboard the flight. We call it a terror incident. It was a similar incident that took place where a plane was hijacked. A plane was hijacked. So again, like I said, our lines going to be blurred. I mean, it's on one end, it is the freedom. It's the freedom of the Balochis who is paramount, and they are voicing it. But is this the way to voice it?
No. Let me just first, we are talking about the Kandahar hijack you are talking about. You know, what kind of atrocities were we perpetrating on the Afghans, or you know, they were trying to free terrorists who had killed people and who were lodged in India's prisons. That is what they were fighting for, you know, and what were they? They came from terror groups. So you see, and here we are talking about people who are being massacred, who are being gunned down, who are being disappeared by the Pakistani army establishment, whose wealth are being stolen and all. So how do you expect them to express
Are we waiting for execution after execution to happen of those 214 passengers who are still under the control, under the custody of the Balochis, who are demanding a certain set of demands? They have not revealed those demands, but this is obviously a hijack. This is obviously a hostage exchange deal that they want to cut with the Pakistani establishment. So, are we waiting for an execution to then call them terrorists? I am also being joined by PJ Mir, who is a senior journalist from Pakistan. PJ Mir, what's the situation on the ground? Why is it that the Pakistani establishment and the Pakistani military continue to refute what the Balochi army is saying, that 20 Pakistani personnel have been killed in the exchange that took place between the two sides?
Look, when you see an act of terror, this is what happens. I mean, don't you see what happened in Kashmir? Nagas, Mizus, Tamils, Khalistan and all that. What were they? They were terrorists. I mean, as far as India is concerned. But here, I'm surprised that the ambassador says that there are freedom movements. Look, freedom movements do not take place like this. There are negotiations, there are talks, and that is how you go about. You don't go around hijacking people and killing them. I mean, what about these people who killed 26 people in Quetta? And, then at the same time, we've had lots of other killings by these, well, I call them Taliban funded or foreign funded. I mean, who funds these people? They are outside the White House in Washington. They're outside the United Nations headquarters in Geneva. Who is funding them? So the question here arises, what India and Pakistan have to see and deal with the situation is by being on one page. Remember one thing, if terrorism emanates from here or from India, and both of them do not get on the same page, both get affected. And who takes advantage of it? The terror element. And this is one of the main reasons. I mean, I've had a number of discourses in Brussels, at the European Parliament, and of course in Washington and in London, where we get very, very intelligent and able Indian ex-army officials, Major General Ashok Mehta, Brigadier Gurmeet Singh, and so many others, and vice versa here from Pakistan, who indulge in objective and logical conversations.
Okay, but then there is a counter over here as well. How does the Pakistani establishment, Pakistani government in generals justify the atrocities that are meted out to the Balochi civilians on a system on a daily basis? Systematically, their populations have dwindled, their lands have been taken, their businesses have been snatched away under the pretext of infrastructure projects being brought in by the Chinese. Not to mention, there have been attacks again and again, in fact targeted killings, assassination of a Balochi leader who had to escape and was in exile in Canada, and he was assassinated by the ISI. So on one end, Pakistani establishment is talking about observing the rules of the law, but breaking them time and again, year after year.
Well, it goes both ways. You see what happens in Kashmir. I mean, what is that? What about those mass graves discovered?
Let's not bring Kashmir into the issue. I'm talking about the liberation movement of the Balochis, the fact that they have been brought to such a situation that there has been a terror act that has been committed by them to make the Pakistani forces, to make the Pakistani military and the government hear their voices. I am not justifying this. This is a terror attack. There are civilians who have been attacked and targeted. But do they have a choice?
No. First of all, let me get one thing clear. I've been in this business far too long, much longer than you. You are supposed to be an anchor, not a participant. The journalist.
I mean, I don't think it matters how many years of experience I have as a journalist. Till the time I am putting out the facts out there, and I am asking directly from the Pakistani establishment, the government, the killing, the maiming, the taking away of property, snatching away of lands, raping.
Who says that?
All of those acts, heinous acts have been committed under the garb of you being the government, of the government taking action against these civilians, innocent people. I'm going to come back to Ambassador Basuti Mukherjee. Now, how do we at this point of time, looking at it from a distance, and about how there have been claims being made, and as per sources, reports being brought out, that the Taliban government in Afghanistan is hand in glove, connived with the Balochis to perpetrate this attack?
In the first place, I would like to clarify to our guest from Pakistan that I was not in any way justifying the killing of innocent hostages. I was pointing out that the atmosphere which currently prevails in that part of Pakistan is also partly due to the fact that the locals, the Balochis, resent the fact that the Pakistani government has brought in the BRI, and they feel that they are being deprived of their land and resources, quite apart from some of the other issues which Megha raised. Under those circumstances, such attacks by the Balochi Liberation Army can be, there's a very thin line between what is a terrorist attack and what is not a terrorist attack. They regard it as a struggle for liberation of their territory against what they feel is a neo-colonial approach by the Pakistanis through the Chinese, and because of that there have also been targeted killings, I understand, of Chinese in that part of Pakistan. So you would know Mr. Mir as well as I do, we could probably be probably the same generation, that Balochistan joining Pakistan was at the end, and there are many interpretations of how Balochistan became part of Pakistan. But be that as it may, it was not a smooth integration, and Balochis do not consider themselves to be Pakistanis the way, let's say, when I meet a Pakistani Punjabi from Pakistan or somebody like you who feel that this is their country and that they belong to it, the same kind of sentiment I have never got from a Balochi, how better off or worse. So the point is that there is a huge political problem here which needs to be resolved politically through dialogue. And if that is not resolved through dialogue, then such killings and attacks will take place. I understand that those who took the hostages are demanding, as Megha said, a list of their own Balochis who are prisoners to be released, a kind of hostage release situation. That is unconfirmed news. I picked it up from the net. I may be wrong, I may be right. But the point here is that there are many Balochis languishing in miserable conditions in Pakistani jails, and this could be a revenge attack. I am not advocating that they should indulge in terrorism or they should execute the hostages. I am merely saying that this may be a wake-up call for the Pakistani establishment. See how they can bring about reconciliation in this part of Pakistan, because otherwise, if it is true and if the allegations about the Taliban being involved are correct, then it would give further problems in Pakistan's quest to set its economy straight and to get back into the path of development. That's all I had to say.
Right, absolutely. And you know, I will put this out to my viewers' knowledge that it's happened a decade ago, 10 years ago. There was a covert operation that was initiated by NewsX. A team from NewsX in Delhi went to Balochistan, and there were mass graves that were found, that were documented, that were captured on camera. And my reporter went on to risk her life to conduct that operation, to find out this information and then relay it back to Delhi. It was a complex, difficult, sensitive information that had to be brought about, that had to be brought out in the public realm to make people understand, to make people aware what exactly is happening against the Balochi population, the atrocities they meted out against the Balochis from the Pakistani establishment, the military, the security forces. Jyota, you want to make a point?
Yeah, you see, when we are talking about that terrorism and you know what the Balochis are, and this our honored guest from Pakistan brought in issues like Kashmir and all, let's make something very clear. Number one, as far as the Balochis are concerned, it is the Pakistani army, the Pakistan military who are the terrorists here. It is the Pakistan establishment that is the terrorist here, because of the reasons what you talked about, the kind of atrocities they have faced all their life. So, in their eyes, whatever they are doing is justified. And you see, when you are talking for them, it is, you know, they are not attacking the civilians, they may be hostage. Now, the number of deaths that we are talking about, has our Pakistani guest tried to find out whether it was military people who were killed or civilians? Because we don't have any clarity. Our problem, the problem that we are facing right now is that we are getting a one-sided version from the Pakistani military and the establishment, Pakistani state, and there is no reason to trust them even an iota. Apart from that, why are they think of the politics of bringing in the Taliban in it. Pakistani military, Rawalpindi GHQ, they are extremely unhappy that they have been elbowed out of Afghanistan by the Taliban, and now India is, I mean, quote unquote, we are kind of trying to rebuild relations with the Taliban. So, one of the reasons they are trying very hard to portray to the West that all terrorism is coming from Afghanistan, deliberately not mentioning the fact that it is actually Pakistan which is the hotbed of terrorism, which is the mother of terrorism. So, you see this focus on Afghanistan is a diversionary tactics, okay, and that is what exactly they are doing. And frankly, I mean, Pakistan should not try to teach us Indians, you know, what is terrorism and what is not terrorism, given that again I am going to say it is a terror state, and that is what, you know, and it is, I mean, whatever is going on right now, it is reaping whatever it has sowed.
Okay, all right. I'm also being informed that medical assistance is being provided to at least 58 men, 31 women and 15 children in Mach, which is a nearby town where makeshift hospitals have been built by the Pakistani forces. Coming back to you, General Rajan Kochar, the situation which is tense, how difficult is it going to be for the Pakistani establishment to deal with it, keeping in mind that the civilians are now held hostage by the Baloch army?
This terrain is a very difficult terrain, the Mach mountains, and I'm given to understand that 40 to 50 hostages have been taken into the mountains. So they are being, it's very difficult for the Pakistani security forces to launch an operation in these areas, which are dominated by the BLA and its forces. So there are going to be casualties on the part of the Pakistani army also, and we have seen in the last 1 year more than 110 attacks have taken place on the Pakistan army, and they have lost 383 men. This is what the figures are coming from Pakistan. So the point here is it's very important to understand in this debate, and my respects to the guest from Pakistan, Mr. Mir, that Pakistan needs to identify a problem. Pakistan is in a denial mode, and until and unless you are in a denial mode, you will never be able to find a solution to the problem in Balochistan. This Balochistan problem is not a new one. It has been happening for a large number of years. 44% of Balochistan is Pakistan. Do you understand that? And only 5% of the population of Pakistan resides here. You know, how much of development has the Pakistan government done for Balochistan if we compare to Punjab, if we compare to Sindh? So the resentment has to be there in the people. Are there good hospitals here? Are there good airports here? Are there good colleges here? And all the educational aspects, and how is the standard of living of the people? What is the infrastructure development in this area? Have people gone into these details? See, when you leave an area like this, and let me tell you, from the nuclear point of view, because this is my concluding argument, Balochistan has got 3 nuclear facilities in Pakistan. The Shaheen 3 missiles, and I am given to understand 80 to 100 of them, there may be much more of them, having a range of 2,650 kilometers. They can target any part of India. They are there in Balochistan today. Do you understand that in case you lose control of this nuclear sites and nuclear plant, what will happen to Pakistan? These missiles can be also used against Pakistan by the BLA. So that is a larger issue which needs to be addressed, because in case you are losing control over the law and order of Balochistan, if the Pakistan army is not able to control the state, and it cannot be done militarily, let me tell you that. The solution does not rest with the Pakistan army any longer. And because the Pakistan army is the deep state in Pakistan, it actually controls the political thinking of Pakistan. You have to get out of this now, because if you allow the Pakistan army to dictate terms the way it has been trying to foment the problem in Kashmir in India, we are actually seeing it every day. I've been in the army 4 decades. I have had 3 tenures in Kashmir, and I have got sufficient intelligence to tell you that there is a problem with the Pakistan army trying to keep the Kashmir issue alive at all times, and the same thing you are going to face in Balochistan when the things will get out of control. It is high time now, because this is a black swan event for you, as I can say it, because it is the time for Pakistan to understand that there is a larger problem with Balochistan, and I am not only restricting it to Balochistan, it is also there in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan is spreading its wings there. You are in for a very big problem, and unless you understand this now, I think it will be too late.
Yes, absolutely. Like Joyita said, and you've also mentioned, Pakistan is going to combust, implode with the terror state that it has been building for decades together, and itself facing the reign of terror from all sides. It's going to be a difficult situation, an impossible situation to get out of. I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast, and thanks for watching NewsX.